Hey everybody, welcome to IT Live. I'm Texas Homer. That is Ian Boyd, and this is brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. We are going to see if Sark can return to his former offensive glory, and we will discuss that in just a second. But first, I want you to head over to Inside Texas. You can join for $1 right now. Would love you to join our community. New members, get over there. We know you watch the videos. Come join the website. All right, Ian. I think we kind of broached the topic for a minute or two in one of our previous lives about. I think someone asked a question in the chat or something that inspired it about getting back to 2020 Alabama, and really, I think the core question is, can we get back to true offensive dominance with this group of transfer portal talent like a Cam Coleman? And of course, you have Arch. You bring in some good backs. You get some tight ends that can block. So now we need to see if we can get back to I don't know about Alabama. We'll see. We'll see your argument, but I think we can get back to something, hopefully top 7, right? What do you think?
There's two questions there, right? There's can Texas mimic the style and success of 2020 Alabama? And then there's, regardless of style, can Texas build an overpowering offensive unit? Because they have not done either of those things in the Sark era to date, right? What's the highest they've ranked in FEI offense?
I don't know, but I would maybe, just off the top of my head, like maybe, I don't know, 15th-ish or something. And that would likely was early in Sark's tenure, actually.
So they were 32nd this year. They were 35th in year one with Casey, which is really something to reflect on.
What were they in year 2? Well, I would
17th in 2022. Okay.
So that's what I'm thinking.
19th in 2023 and 18th in 2024.
18th and 24 is better than I thought, for sure.
There's not a single year where the offense was in the top 15 of offensive FEI. Right? Is that what I just said?
Right.
Okay.
Which is, and I'll hear people whenever push back and be like, it's still a good offense. It's like, yeah, but what we paid, the whole pitch with Sark was that we were going to have overwhelming offense. We ended up getting things that we didn't even expect, right? Like Sark fielding a really good defense. And so Sark did a lot of things that we didn't even know were going to happen. And as far as team building and stuff like that, he did really well. But like the core pitch was, you're going to have this blistering offense that no one can keep up with. And that just hasn't happened at Texas yet.
I will say, when he hired Pete Kwiatkowski, I was pretty sure that the defense was going to be really good.
Yeah, same here. And that was
all he had done was top 10 defenses at Boise and Washington for
And that was unexpected value add for me, because you always worry with the top coordinator that they're going to forsake their defense like a Lincoln Riley. And Sark didn't do that. So Sark was much more well-rounded, at least, than I thought he was going to be. But you still want to see that crazy offense. And then there was an argument going on Twitter that I thought was true. Like 2020 Alabama has been kind of memory hold, as they said, as like a special team. Because everyone talks about like 2019 LSU, but Alabama had the same numbers, if not even slightly better.
No.
I mean, they did.
Okay.
Yeah, they did. And so that part too, if you're talking about production, was right after LSU. And I think LSU too, you have some players, but you also have Devontae Smith and stuff like that too. You don't hear 2020 Alabama really discussed as like one of the great teams whenever you list it. And I think they said too that some of that is COVID. Maybe that season just felt weird.
Yes.
So is that your thoughts on why kind of 2020 Alabama is not spoken with some of the other teams, even though they had the same production as some of those legendary teams?
There were teams in 2020 that had an advantage based on the level of precaution they took regarding COVID. And my guess would be that Alabama had significant advantages with regards to how they treated the threat of COVID amongst their players. Yeah. And it was a diminished year. It was a weird, shortened season. They were great, but no, it doesn't measure up the same as what like LSU did in 2019.
And I agree. Like if because I also memory hole Alabama, even as a Texas fan, but it's just people point out they're like, look, statistically, like Alabama's offense was right. I think even slightly better than LSU's offense, but still because of all the factors named, it's it doesn't get the same credit.
2019 LSU would have, by like the midpoint of the season, defenses were designing entirely new playbooks to try to address what they were doing to them.
It was really funny when we played them and they beat us because I remember watching it in like 2019. I'm like, I'm starting to learn football. I don't know it in depth, but I'm just like, I think this team might be really good, but I'm not sure. And then they go on to just absolutely kill everybody. But that was nice. Not the loss, but to at least see that team. And then Burrow gives us the farewell and all that. So yeah, I agree. I mean, ultimately, I think you're right. 2019 LSU is one of those legendary teams. It is interesting that Alabama's just kind of not in that conversation.
When Texas played them, their secondary hadn't been destroyed by injuries yet. So they had like unbelievable depth. It was like, how do we get BJ Foster and Caden Stearns and Brandon Jones and DeMarvion Overshone and all these guys on the field at the same time? And they played LSU with a 3-2-6 dime most of the game. And LSU still shredded them throwing the ball. And I left that game and I was like, ain't nobody going to stop that team. If Texas couldn't do it with what they just tried, no one else is going to be able to do it. And then the subsequent Chris Brown too. Chris Brown was really good in that game. I think he started as the jack, or buck or whatever they called it. I derailed myself. Oh yeah, Texas's subsequent season diminished what that team was in everybody's eyes because Colin Johnson was injured for a big chunk of the year, and the defense fell apart because everyone got injured in the secondary. So people don't realize how good that team was, and Sam Ehlinger was healthy. People don't realize how good that team was when they played LSU, and they just what that portended for the rest of the season. I could see it at the time.
I couldn't. I was still too new to it. I was just like, there's something here, but I couldn't put my finger on. Like, I was like, this team's got to be really good, right? But I didn't.
I was chronicling it. I was like,
yeah,
everybody, no one's going to beat this. I'm pretty sure I have a tweet from like after the game at some point in the following week or something that was like, that team's going to win the championship. You just wait.
Yeah. LSU ran through 9 bowl teams. So I was trying to set Ian up here. Ian talks about the schedule. Give us the schedule of Alabama on why you think it was less potent, I guess.
This is not at all the point of the article. I think very highly of that.
Yeah, but you lead with this.
All right. So they didn't play. They only played SEC games. They only played 1, 2, 3 ranked SEC teams in the season. A&M, who they obliterated, Georgia, who they obliterated, and Auburn, who they obliterated. They postseason was not that bad. The toughest game in the postseason was the SEC championship game against Florida. That Florida team is the forgotten team of history.
I'm gonna be honest. When I read the article, I didn't even remember they played for Florida for the SEC title.
That Florida team, I think, finished like 8-4 or something. And so you look at them in the record books, and you're like 8-4, okay, whatever. That team was amazing. Alabama beat them in a shootout, 52-46. But that Florida team had senior Kyle Trask in Darth Mullins' offense, and they pivoted to more of a spread passing deal. And they had who was the pseudo tight end? that everybody expects to break out in fantasy every year. Kyle Pitts.
Kyle, yeah. Is it Pitts?
Pitts, and then they had a receiver that was devastating. That's also going to be a very familiar name for people whenever I remember what it was. Kadarius Toney and Kyle Pitts. They were shredding teams. Kyle Trask threw for over 4,000 yards in just 12 games with 43 touchdown passes. Shredding teams. That was the toughest game Alabama played all year. Barely beat Florida in a shootout. Couldn't stop them at all. And then they got Notre Dame in the first game of the playoffs. It was like one of those Brian Kelly Notre Dame teams with like Ian Book or something. Whipped them. And then they got totally depleted Ohio State, who'd only played like 7 games or something ridiculous. Super protected by the Big Ten. And Ryan Day played a 44 stack to try to stop Najee Harris rather than Heisman winner Devontae Smith. And Devontae Smith went for like, I don't remember the exact number, but I think it was 636 receiving yards. And Alabama just obliterated them. So it's pretty easy. Pretty easy playoff run, all things considered, other than the Florida game. And it wasn't an expanded playoff yet. And most of the Big Ten had barely played all year. And Ohio State was mostly untested and just kind of pushed through.
But you're kind of why are you setting this up? Because Texas has faced more difficult paths too, so you're trying to give context there.
The 2020 Alabama offense was amazing, but what they had to do to win the championship is not the same as what Texas will have to do to win the championship. So there's 2 questions. There were 2 questions at the beginning of the show. There's 2 similar but different questions now, which is one.
Keep track of the questions, guys.
Keep track of the question. Question number 1. Can Texas mimic what Alabama did in 2020 stylistically? Namely, the like power run game, diverse power run game that gets you really focused on the box, like that meathead Ryan Day, and then torch you with amazing receivers on the outside on play action and RPOs. Question 1, can Texas finally get that formula down in a way they haven't really to date under Sark? Question number 2, can that style win in 2026 like it won in 2020?
All right.
I think people are skeptical about the first part of that question from what I've seen. And I think people should be a little more skeptical.
I'm skeptical about the second part.
Yes, you should be, I think.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, in our private conversations with Pac, I am very skeptical about how defenses changed versus that style. So
you're just like sitting there like, Pac, tell me about how overrated Sark is. Like, he's pretty good, and you're like, no, tell me,
please, God,
tell me about how his stuff is outdated.
Yeah, I do think it's outdated. Well, I think everyone's stuff from 2020 is probably outdated. Like, I think defense is back ahead of offense. I think it's kind of similar to like the spread revolution, what defenses have done. And I think we are starting to see, but haven't seen the full response yet to how you deal with these defenses. And we'll talk about how defenses have changed. But yeah, that's why I think like hearkening back to can we get what he did in 2022? It's like, well, I think the effectiveness is, even if you did harken back and did exactly what he did in 2022, like style wise, we'll see if I think it's blunted. I guess I kind of gave it away there. But let's master the formula here. First, let's look at their 12 personnel lineup, Ian. They got some dudes on this team. Let's start with quarterback. Mac Jones versus our quarterback. Can you hear me?
Yeah, that's weird. I kind of went off for a second.
So all right, compare Mac Jones to Arch.
I don't know if there's anything Mac Jones does better than Arch. I think Arch is a comparable pocket mover and deep ball thrower. I think Arch is good at Mac at everything that Mac was good at. Maybe that's a little generous, but I think that's probably true.
Yeah, you're stepping on the line of generosity, but
he still has another year or two to approach it.
I was gonna say, so the argument you can go with is, well, Mac Jones was older, but yeah, I think you're being a little bit generous, but I get what you're saying, and he also adds things that Mac Jones doesn't have as well.
Also, this is Mac's fourth year, and this will be Arch's fourth year. Third year Mac was not as good at that stuff as third year Arch.
Yeah.
And then yeah, as a runner and just a general value add guy with his legs, Arch is on a way different level than Mac Jones, which makes a huge difference in college football.
Najee Harris compared to our two big back additions.
Najee is what Jaden Paul would have been, we think. Maybe you'd be skeptical of that even, but
I'm a little skeptical of the Baugh hype, but I still think he's a great player.
It's the same kind of deal where he's like a good all around and versatile runner, but particularly good at just like plowing ahead for consistent gains and converting short yardage and red zone kind of opportunities. They didn't do that. They went with the speed option, which is what you prefer. It makes sense to me. It's a little different. I think that it will probably have the same impact on how defenses play them on first down. I guess we'll see.
What I prefer personally is actually like, who was the back for Arkansas? Mike Washington?
The dude that trucked Taft?
Yeah. I like that guy. But in Sark's scheme, I want little fast guys. My personal preference is actually like a bigger back. But for here, I just think
that guy would do just fine in Sark's scheme. Najee Harris did fine in Sark's scheme.
Yeah, but in tandem with our offensive line that I'm still unsure of, whenever we get those opportunities, that's what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for like consistent grinding.
I don't know that Alabama's offensive line is that far away from where Texas could be next year.
I don't know.
That's the part that's you can go find people that will tell you that 2020 Alabama offensive line was overrated.
Yeah.
I thought they were good for personally.
Didn't a bunch of them get drafted?
Okay. Ryan Nelson says center is a big difference. Ian, come on. It was until the postseason, and then it wasn't. Because until the postseason, they had Landon Dickerson, who I don't have listed here. But Landon Dickerson, who's now the starting left guard for the Philadelphia Eagles, was amazing. Dickerson got injured in the Florida game. I don't remember when in the Florida game, but he got injured in that game, and they had to finish off Florida and win both playoff games with Chris Owens at center, who was like Connor Robertson type program guy, fifth year dude. So
I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll have to see with the offensive line. We'll have to see if Seymour gets eligibility.
Yeah, that's a big
offensive line.
It really feels like they should be developing to where like Sikorsky or Chapman or Kojo is fine.
Yeah,
if they can't find two guards from Baker and Kojo and Chapman and Sikorsky, then it's like, what on earth are you guys? Do you guys practice? You know? Yeah.
What about tight end? Because I think that's a big stylistic piece from what he did in the portal.
They did a lot of this big personnel with Miller Forstall and Kendall Randolph as the two tight ends. They did Jaleel Billingsley also, and he played a fair amount in the playoffs. But they also did a lot of this Big 12 stuff where Kendall Randolph was a sixth offensive lineman, basically like they would do with Andre Karich a couple of years later at Texas.
Yeah.
And he was just jumbo tight end. He ended up playing some in the interior for them later under a different coaching staff, obviously.
Texas. Do we have that with
Masunis and Shannon, I think, is actually maybe better than this tandem as tight ends. I don't know if Masunis is quite as good as Randolph, but he probably is comparable. And Townsend, I think, can be better than Forstall. Forstall is kind of solid, but if Townsend is way faster, if he can just learn to catch like a tight end screen or a leak or something, then he's going to be on a different level, right?
Yeah. So where are we at now? So we think
Better at
Arch.
quarterback.
We think Arch is better at quarterback. Offensive line. What was that they could theoretically be better? I don't know about that, but it's like
No, they're probably not better.
okay,
No, especially with Dickerson. No, but they might be closer than you think. I kind of wonder what it would have looked like for this Alabama team if they'd had to face the caliber of modern blitzing that Texas has to deal with now.
Well, that's what we'll talk about. We'll talk about how the game has changed. What's the verdict on running back?
They did beat Georgia pretty soundly. Running back is
a push.
Yeah. Is it a push? I don't know.
The problem is we're trying to ask if they're going to match style, and we're inherently not going to be able to match style at running back, right?
Here's the question: is Najee Harris was good at drawing attention into the box, like from meathead Ryan Day, which made it easier for Devontae Smith to get loose, or John Mechie, or before he was injured, Jalen Waddle. They also had Jalen freaking Waddle on this team, but he was injured before the postseason. Will teams respond to Texas's speed at running back by putting guys into the box to make sure that there's no leaks? Or do they say, you'll get leaks, that's fine, but we're going to stay in our too deep shell and rely on our safeties to make tackles against your running backs if they get a little loose?
I think they're going to start the game in that, and then if you punish it, you can get them out of it. But I think as a DC,
you would struggle to do that against Harris because he's going to wear on your safeties, right?
Right. And the flip side with the fast guy is like, well, they're faster than the safeties. So if the safeties aren't taking the right leverages and stuff like that, they can still get beat. But I just think as a DC, you're going to want to keep the lid on Texas passing game first. And then if Brown and Smothers, get 3 or 4 explosives, then you have to reevaluate. But I think they will start in a too high shell. Also, that's just more common in football too right now, right?
Yeah. I think we can agree that Harris provides a more consistent threat, but it's possible that the Raleek Smothers combo will be a little more of a bad risk-benefit analysis for defenses to try to consider.
And then tight end, do you think Texas could actually be improved here?
Yeah, well, I guess you should probably count Billingsley. So let's just call it a push.
Okay. Before we keep going, we're going to talk about the legendary wide receiver group they had and if Texas can get some names to compete with those guys. But first, let's hear a word from McClellan.
Fast one.
Same-day delivery powered by DoorDash.
All right, Ian, this will be tough, right? They got Devontae Smith, Mechie. Texas has some players here, but those are kind of – I don't know. That wide receiver squad at Alabama is a legendary position room.
I think that so this is a different article, different show. I think in 11 personnel, Texas could surpass this. I think in 12, when they have to choose just 2 guys, I don't think they have 2 guys that will be as good as Mechie and Smith.
But you think our third option is stronger than Alabama's third option in 2020?
Well, without Waddle, yes. But also, like
without Waddle, but Waddle's a –
Waddle
did he get hurt? Did he get hurt really early in the season, or when did he get hurt?
I don't remember. I think
was he one of those ones that got injured in fall camp type thing?
No, he played. He cooked Georgia. Part of the reason they destroyed Georgia was because they still had him.
Well, then I think there's no chance. I mean, the injured version, maybe, but
They won all their postseason games without him, unless I'm greatly mistaken. Let's see how many games.
yeah, maybe we can talk on that technicality. Who's Texas's third option? What do
He
we know?
played 6 games and then he was done. So I think that they can match Mechie and Smith if you pool all the abilities of Wingo, Mosley, and Coleman.
Okay, match them how? And you're saying like a production match
and a stress the field match. Like I think Coleman can stress teams down the field as well as Smith or Mechie. I think Mosley is a punish your second corner. He's going to get that job done, even if he's not quite Mechie. He's going to get that job done just fine. And I think Wingo can give you the gadgetry and easy explosiveness of Smith that Coleman doesn't.
I'm having a tough episode with you, brother. I just I don't think, yeah, I don't agree with that. But just because I'm just going for one for ones here. Like Cam Coleman's the only one that I'm having an argument that could match those guys.
The one for one doesn't really matter. It's can you stress an opponent in these ways and present these threats?
But it's like the gadgetry of Devontae Smith. It's like, yeah, he did go and catch like stuff in the flats, but also he was a great receiver, like running through the middle and making plays too. So it's like Wingo only gives you an approximation of half of that game, right?
That's what I'm saying. If you use,
you're trying to moneyball this.
It's not really. If you play an 11 a lot, then these 3 guys can present the same threats that these 2 guys do in 12, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't take it to court, but it's like, sure, you can. Yeah, we have the stress for flats turn into touchdowns, and we do have the stress for over the top.
Yeah, and you have the stress for you can't just bracket one guy and be off the hook. Our other guys can do damage if you don't give them some good attention. That's probably the point where this Alabama, where they're like the comparison is shakiest, right?
Right.
Is that if a team of, say, Georgia's caliber were to bracket Coleman and then put their next corner on Mosley, can Mosley actually get open against Georgia's second corner? John Mechie could.
Right.
Jalen Waddle could, whatever. Can Emmett Mosley consistently get open against Georgia's second corner or against whatever other top defense he might have to beat?
Well, can the second corner lock down Wingo if he's an outside and Mosley's at the slot? Can Mosley beat the nickel? Right?
Well, yeah, that's another question for probably another day.
I would say this. It depends on the second corner, right? I mean, that's really the thing. But I do agree we have great weapons. I'm really excited about the wide receiver room. It's just approximating that group. I thought those guys were so overall talented and special that's what really unlocked it. Now, if we had like Coleman with all his abilities and Wingo had like legit downfield route running ability, he has the speed, he has the get it and go. But just those guys are far more skilled to me than Wingo at number 2. I think that's my sticking point.
Well, we'll see also what Wingo looks like in year 3.
I mean, we'll see.
He's actually healthy enough to practice in the offseason, which would make God knows how big of a difference.
When it comes to skill, I feel better about Mosley. You know, I like Mosley's skill, and it doesn't have to be all speed. I mean, he's done really good things in route running. So that's more of an option. I don't think we have the total overwhelming skill set that they had. A mix of route running, speed amongst pretty much everybody than we do. We have like Cam Coleman goes deep. Mosley will beat the nickel on a choice route in the slot, and then Wingo is a screen. It's like you get these pieces, but those guys had pretty much all those pieces at each position. So I think that's where I stick on it.
Sure.
All right.
You notice the big human philosophy, and also the fact that the interior was wildly less talented than the tackles on the line.
Yeah.
Doesn't this look so much like all the subsequent alpha offensive lines?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, we end up sorting for tackles.
Deontay Brown is a 6'4", 350-pound left guard in particular. Is funny.
Brother, saying that I don't think Texas has one of the most legendary wide receiver rooms we've ever seen is not me being grumpy. It's just that's a bridge too far for me. I'm not grumpy about it. All right. Let's see what we got here. This is where you kind of break it down. This is the part I want to talk about. Defensive adaptations since 2020. I have a couple that I'll add as well. But Ian, break them down how defenses have changed since that era.
I think some of yours are just going to fall under the subheading of number 3, which I didn't really extrapolate on. But I identified 3 big differences. Yeah.
The Alien 3.
Or
yeah, that's what men do, that one.
Dry glasses or whatever.
Yeah.
Inglorious. One, defenses are not as easy to predict or read pre-snap. So in the past, as recently as 2020, not against everybody, but against a lot of teams, the offensive coordinator could call play being like, they're in this coverage. And he could signal it into the quarterback. The quarterback would be at the line and looking around, and he was like, yep, it's that coverage. And then there's very little reading after the snap. You could even higher level quarterback play for guys like Sark or Ryan Day was often not even reading the coverage. It was knowing what the coverage was and then keeping defenders from keying in on the right spot by using their eyes to look them off, and then going to the guy that they were always going to throw to. And that actually requires a lot of skill. If you ever go out into your yard and you like try to look off your kid and then throw it to him and turn and actually throw it's pretty freaking hard.
Yeah.
But it's not the same as reading the defense, which is harder still. And you can't do that as much anymore because you can't be as sure about what coverage the team is going to be in, and they're going to give it way more disguise. And
Watch our Saturday shows. We exactly break down how they disguise, make cover 3 look like bracket, look like this, right? So it's the looks are all the same, from the same starting point, but they do different things in different situations.
If you go watch when I quizzed LC on different coverages Texas was playing in 2024, and you watch Michael Taff on those, Michael Taff was always obfuscating whatever Texas was doing with a total mastery of his craft.
Yeah.
So that's a lot harder. So shot play passing, where you're just dropping back and you know all along where the ball's going, and then you just have to deliver a good ball to a wide open receiver. It ain't like that anymore. Secondly, the makeup of that Alabama offensive line or the subsequent Texas offensive lines, where you have your NFL talents at tackle, and then in your interior are like hopefully just big, cohesive dudes, does not hold up as well because defenses don't just line up their best pass rusher across from your tackle and say, may the best man win. They will move him around. They will blitz the weak spot of your line. They will blitz the weak spot of your protection scheme. Mike Elko has these weak side overload blitzes that are like, if you don't see him coming, you're done.
Yeah, they're going to run straight to the quarterback.
They're going to overload a side, and they're in your quarterback's face mask in like 2 seconds. And you either see it coming and you throw it to the right spot, or their guy puts the crown of his helmet through your quarterback's windpipe. It's pretty rough.
Yeah, they're attacking the A and B gaps much more, and they're attacking the A and B gaps with pass rushers, right? Like these hybridized linebackers, right? They can do both. So
Yep.
That's a different thing too than just being worried about, hey, block the guy on the blind side. Now you're worried about especially in a play action where it's taking time to read, and now you got to wait for the play to develop. All of these type of things too.
And then the third thing is that the deep coverages are better at handling the deep stress. So like the way it worked, as best as I have understood from watching football for the last 20 years or whatever, is that offenses got really good at spreading defenses out, and then they to run the ball. Then they got really good at spreading them out to attack the safeties down the field. And eventually defenses figured out these coverages don't work. They have too many weaknesses. If you watch our video from last Saturday with Pack about quarters, we get into some of that. The cover 1 to cover 3, we got into that some. And so it was just too easy. And so defenses have evolved and made their coverages more robust against deep route combinations. Like Sark will run route combinations all day where it's like, I'm going to send this guy deep here and this guy deep here. And your safety can't cover them both. And I'm going to have the easiest read ever for the quarterback based on which of like 2 coverages you play. And then we're going to cook you down the field for touchdowns. The defenses they've learned to prioritize that slowly but surely. After, I would say 2020 Alabama was one of the breakthrough moments where defenses were like,
that's what I was going to say. Ironically, I think Sark played a huge role in how defenses were like, we cannot let this happen anymore.
I think 2019 LSU for sure.
For sure.
But then 2020 Alabama was different because 2019 LSU did a lot of things that everybody else has been too afraid to try to do. But Alabama's was way more traditional because it was like, we're going to run the ball with Najee Harris, and then we're going to throw deep on these combinations. We're just going to put a lot more emphasis on this deep passing element than you've seen from a college team before. And I think that really put the fear of God into people. And it was immediately, it was being mimicked by like Ryan Day at Ohio State was very similar. Lincoln Riley to some extent. Even Georgia had every once in a while would throw it deep and they would do similar stuff.
Well, the deep coverages too, right? When you play heavy 12 personnel, naturally you're releasing less people out on routes too, right? You get a lot of 2-man concepts deep.
Yeah. But
like Yankee, like those common things are normally 2-man routes.
Yeah, I think 11 made it a lot easier though.
Well, generally they get you into 12 to pull your coverage down to where you can run the 2-man on the safety and it works.
Well, it got really easy from 11. That was like everybody in the Big 12 was living in that overstressing deep coverage from 11 personnel with the slot going down the field. And that also was starting to matriculate up to the higher levels of the game. But anyway, yeah.
So
he cashed in really well. He won a championship and he got the Texas job. 2 big prizes for any coach. But
he maximized that team, right? He had incredible talent and he employed it well.
But now now you have to deal with defenses that are way more robust against it, and you have to deal with more of them because you still have to win the SEC or win enough in the SEC to make the playoffs, and then you got to go beat 3 or 4 really good teams in the playoffs who are going to bring a diverse array of defensive counters. You don't just get to play overrated Notre Dame and depleted Ohio State.
Absolutely. Before we keep talking about how the game has changed a little bit, let's hear a word from David McClellan.
Big financial decisions don't have to feel overwhelming. There's someone who can guide you every step of the way. David McClellan is a fiduciary financial advisor with Forum Financial, and he's working closely with his clients as a true financial life coach, guiding every aspect of your financial journey with expertise and care. If his name sounds familiar, that's because David was a swimmer at Texas and a member of several national championship teams. Today, he channels that same championship mindset into helping people win with their finances. David specializes in financial planning, and he's contributed numerous articles to Kiplinger on the topic of retirement tax bombs. And right now, David is offering viewers a free intro consultation to assess your financial situation. Do not miss this chance to get personalized guidance from a trusted expert. To schedule your free consult, email David at dmcclellan@forumfinancial.com, or you can call him directly at 312-933-8823. The contact info is in the description.
A really big part of the Sarkeesian offense of that era, I mean, he did a pretty big clinic on it, was the RPO game. And that was a major factor, right? And one of the reasons when he hired Terry Joseph, one of the things he stated is that he thought Notre Dame made their RPOs really difficult. And that was a key thing that I think maybe Joseph, and I'd have to go back and watch. I didn't study it enough. I just remember hearing that, that Joseph might have been kind of on the earlier frontier of trying to shut down the RPO game. As we discussed on the Saturday show with Pack, you know, the mint front, one of its core features is that it's built to stop that RPO window. So the defense is one of its core functions and designs is simply to take away the window where the glance is that Sark loved. You can go watch that whole clinic on the glance RPO. So also one of the things that was most potent in option football for Sark seems teams have also kind of schemed around. Do you agree or disagree?
I totally agree. Yeah, RPOs. They had RPOs, and they also had those. They had play action passes in 2020 that were designed to look like RPOs, and then they would turn into double moves that obliterated a couple teams. I think John Mechie threw. They did one against A&M, I think, where Mechie ran like a glance, and they made it look like they were running like a inside zone or duo RPO with a glance outside to Mechie. And Mechie ran up to do the glance and then like shot straight down the field. So like the safety was running down to like, oh, I know what you're doing. We're going to make you pay for this time. And he just ran by him. And then the Alabama line turned out to be in a late pass set. And then over the top for 6 points. They did it to Auburn too, for sure. They had all kinds of nasty stuff.
And what was Pack telling us about like the second tier RPOs, kind of like that? Do you remember that conversation? That he thought Sark did that well. Like Ezekiel's wheel, I think, was an example.
Yeah.
Yeah. So can you explain that Pack said that style of RPO is still pretty effective, but the pure glance slant thing can be stopped by alignment, meaning just dropping a guy into that window, and then you force them to run, and then you have a defense that's good against the run, and now they're behind the sticks, right?
It's possible that Manning is not very good at those multi-level RPOs because they don't really run them very much anymore. And that's a simple explanation for potentially why, is that Manning struggles with the like quick setting throws, or like Ewers didn't even need to set his feet to throw those. Because it was all arm anyway, for good or for ill, right? And so he was pretty lethal on some of those. Like Ezekiel's wheel, the quarterback makes like 3 reads in progression in like snap moments, and you got to make a quick throw. Those are pretty nasty. They're obviously also kind of hard to do.
So you think RPO has been watered down a little bit too?
Yeah, there's also like once teams stopped giving away easy reads and throws on RPOs, they started to get a little questionable in value. Because if your quarterback doesn't have a clean read, then you have 2 problems. One is that he sits there for a minute, and then he has 2 clocks telling him to make a decision. One clock is, if you don't throw this ball, you've already foregone the handoff. If you don't throw it sometime soon, your offensive line is going to get downfield and you're going to get a penalty, and whatever you do won't count. Or your offensive line is run blocking. They are not pass blocking. So you are not protected right now. And so odds are, if you don't make a decision, you're about to get smacked.
So teams have started taking that backside read guy that the quarterback would read. They've taken him out of the run fit, meaning that he's not in no man's land, meaning that he's not responsible for a gap and a receiver. That's how you option those guys. So just schematically, they won't even allow you the opportunity as well on the backside of RPOs, because the front side is going to be the run and the quarterback's going to read the backside, right? So that's been a big feature. And even in clinics now, it's when you into defensive clinics, I used to never hear about in early install like how we're going to stop the RPO, but I'm hearing stopping the RPO is like one of the first 3 things mentioned now in the sport when defensive coordinators talk about their defense. So I think there's just been a big philosophical shift there overall as the defense has evolved.
You know what's funny is Lincoln Riley was never into them very much anyways for these reasons. And he would actually just run a traditional quarterback option. So they'd run like zone read and their GT read play and power read. And it was like, we're not going to let you play all these games. When we want to throw with run threat, we're going to do it off traditional play action where our quarterback is actually protected long enough to make decisions. And that was wise, I think, of Riley, because it didn't leave him overexposed when teams started to answer the RPO.
So speaking of Riley, Y cross, right? The famous play that he was able to kill people with. When I think of Sark's 2020 Alabama, I think of crossers as the main deep concept running through the defense. Since then, defenses have designed schemes to where they can pick up crossers better. I thought that's what Ohio State did really well versus us in week 1. They always had some backside guy where it looked like the crosser was going to break free, but they were waiting on it, and they were literally turn their hips and wait for the guy to get to him. I think defenses have also solved that more. And so that's a big factor for me that, I don't know, I've been harping on for like 2 years. And we talk about it. I don't know if we've talked about it yet on Pac's show, but we certainly will.
Vanderbilt did that really well in 24.
Vanderbilt did that great in 24. And so then we started checking everything down. So can you talk about that? How safeties or even corners have found ways to drop out and pick up that crosser when it used to be that guy was going to be wide ass open, just wait for him to get to his spot.
Yeah. Defenses. Yeah. They're trained now to anticipate and find route combinations that are dangerous and then trade off receivers to each other. So normally it used to be a lot more simple. Like if this guy goes deep beyond this distance, you're just covering him. Now teams will play a little more sophisticated zone where they will trade off guys down the field and force you to try to throw into like a insane window down the field, which would require, an absolute whip arm and a lot of practice probably. And so like the corner will let a guy run down the field and trade him off to the safety to come over so that he can come and pick up the crosser coming from the other side of the field. And they just stay back in with zone eyes. And then they're just looking at all the different combinations and then where they're declaring on the field so that they can make the optimal trade-offs, which is hard to do, right? Because that means you all need to know what to do against this, and this. And you all have to be on the same page. You can't let a guy run away and then the other guy not pick him up, or it's potentially 6 points. But that's what teams do now. That's what teams spend their time getting good at. And so that makes it really hard to burn them down the field.
So the initial 2 questions, right? The first one was, can you match the style of Alabama from 2020? I think you have not across the board, right? You have different runners than like a Najee Harris, but I think in a lot of ways you can approximate, 12 personnel trying to take shots. The second part of the question,
especially if they get better this offseason.
For sure. And then the second part of the question was, does that style even hold the same level of efficacy? Was that the right way to phrase it?
Yeah.
And then you said you should be more weary about question 2, which I agree. And so it's like that, to me, it's all about the efficacy. We just named a bunch of reasons why the 2020 style has been, I don't want to say all the way, but solved in a lot of ways for defenses through their ability to disguise, their ability to pick up crossers, their ways to beat RPOs by alignment. All of these things, when you think of the 2020 scheme, aren't as effective. So going forward, Ian, what's the evolution that should occur, can occur with Arch's skill set? If we don't, even if we can match this style, why would we try to play the style that's less effective anyways? So what do you think we can do? Is it spread them out? Is it go empty? What's the meta, and what can Arch do now?
It's always spread them out.
Yeah, that's candy to a baby with you.
Yeah. I don't know if they will, as I'm working on that for upcoming articles. I mean, I'm sure they will to some extent, but there's some question marks, like who plays in the slot and how often. Like Blake Bryant says, I'd like to see Sark utilize more empty this year. Arch's number from empty the last 2 years are so good. Empty is pretty unbeatable if you're really good at it. It's really hard to disguise, and it's really hard to pressure the quarterback when they're really good from empty, because you just get overexposed in coverage, and quick throws will take you apart. But the line has to be at a certain level of cohesion and protection, 5-man protection, and your quarterback has to know exactly where the ball's going, which means you have to give the quarterback a lot of trust, and you have to practice it a lot. And they should do that. I don't know if they'll do it enough, because they're going to want to major also in the run the ball a million different ways and throw it deep formula.
And Arch also needs to take that step. That's one of his big development steps, is throwing quick throws. So he also needs to step to that read and get it to you style as well. I think he's better in progression, sitting back, getting to a third read, a deep shot. I think
he's fine when it's spread.
I think he's better when it's spread,
because he did it against Mississippi State a lot. That's not the highest bar, but he ripped the ball out a lot against Mississippi State when they let him work in the spread.
But that's the factor of his game that needs the most work compared to the other pieces, in my opinion. And you need that through reps. You need that through your receivers being healthy. You need that through your offensive line being able to gel during the offseason. So but these can all be natural growth. I'm not saying these things can't happen. I mean, this is what development should look like for me.
Yeah. It's pretty normal for a quarterback to be in his advanced years before he really masters that style. Colt McCoy was a redshirt junior when he did.
Yeah.
Vince Young, also a redshirt junior before he really unlocked the passing game and figured it out. Joe Burrow was a fifth-year senior or something at LSU. This is all very, very normal.
So you want to spread it out more, spread running. We know that Sark's going to go 12. We know that's just something he wants to do. He wants to try to force the coverage by formation. They've gotten better at disguising that, but there's still a certain level where you can narrow it down by getting heavier, I guess, than in other ways. But that's the big key. And then what do you think? You mentioned quarterback run option earlier too. How big of a part of that should be in the offense?
I mean,
non-scramble, like
as much as they can risk, I guess. Manning, here's the thing: is that's hard to do if your quarterback is getting killed when he's trying to hang in and throw down the field. That really doesn't marry very well with throwing down the field to double moves and slower developing deep crossers behind crap protection. He was so beat up in a lot of games. I saw a picture of Manning celebrating after the Red River shootout, and I noticed something about the resolution of the photo or something. I realized that there was these massive bruises across his arms that I could see in the photos.
Yeah. And
I was like, oh, I hadn't noticed that before. And you knew that after the Florida game, he was playing through one or two undisclosed injuries of probably a severity level that would surprise typical people, right?
And then he gets hit in the head versus Mississippi State on a scramble, trying to make it work there too. So just
Yep.
accumulating shots. And
Yep.
he's tough. He's tough as hell. We saw that, right? But at some point, it's not a toughness question. Your arm is broken, and so it's like you just great for toughness, but if you can minimize that, I think
They don't have to
he's
do
gonna
it.
kill. I think he's gonna kill on scrambles and then like red zone runs.
They can afford to be judicious with it until it's like big game or postseason, because they have two tight ends. They have three tight ends who can block. So you don't need to run the quarterback to make your spread run game work when you have Townsend or Masunas or probably even Shannon. So they should probably run him like they did against Michigan in the gotta have it games. And then otherwise, they really shouldn't, probably just protect him and let him heal.
All right. So we talked about, can he get back to the Alabama dominance? And then we kind of phrased some questions at different levels. I don't know if Texas will get to being the best offense in college football. I don't know. But do you think Texas – I think top 10's enough. Do you think we can get there?
If they can't –
If your defense is sound.
If they can't be at least top 10, if not top 5 or best, then I'm going to start getting on board with you with you need an offensive coordinator. Because how in the world can you have this much talent year after year after year and not produce a top 5 offense? Like, you're just not doing a good job if that's the case. Right?
Yeah.
So there we've thrown the gauntlet.
Yeah.
Sark, you better produce, or else Ian Boyd is going to start questioning your play calling.
We're going to start looking at Memphis offensive coordinators for you to hire, brother.
Yeah.
Well, here's a big factor too, right? I think this was an admission from Sark, which I was glad, because you can have coaches that are so stubborn, you're just like, oh, what are you doing? He talks about that he gives Milwee a little bit more freedom on the offense. Okay, that's a slight admission, right? We'll put him in the box, that kind of thing. We can argue about how effective it was and how it changed things, sure, but still doing
Milwee
okay.
is more spready, I think, than Sark too.
Yeah, and when you put Milwee in the box versus Mississippi State, the offense became a lot more spread-centric, which me and you have argued about, but it was still an interesting data point, right? But
well,
and then the second factor,
I agree that happened and that the spread was the difference.
Yeah.
My only point was that I think Sark credited it to Milwee when it was an obvious move that any idiot should have noticed, because he was priming us to accept Milwee as the answer at offensive coordinator, thus allowing Sark to ultimately still hold the call sheet.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there was some gamesmanship in it, but I still think the admission was, hey, I'm willing to tweak something with the offense, even if it's just perceptually. And then he fires PK in the offseason. And one of the reasons he states is like, I need a head coach of the defense, right?
Mm-hmm.
So to me, that's also a signal of like, hey, I need to grind more on the offense. The offense needs to get better. So those two things in tandem to me show that he's like, yeah, clearly the offense isn't functioning at the level that I want it to. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think Sark, I have no questions about Sark's. He's out to change things.
Yeah. Then you acquire the talent to do so. We'll see it offensive line. I'm still, as you can tell, skeptical of that. But as far as getting Cam Coleman, that's sweet. Getting those two backs, really like that too. Getting a blocking tight end, like that as well. And then I think even though it's not 2020 Alabama wide receiver room, in my opinion, I do like the skill sets that you can get from Mosley, Wingo, and Coleman. I think they're all varied, and I think they all have their own spot within the offense that can freak defenses out. So that part of it in the offseason, minus offensive line, I feel pretty good about. And that's why I do expect a jump, hopefully to the top 10 on offense. And a lack of – and we've argued about this too, right, that Sark is more of a knockout puncher. So he'll take some ability to kind of back up the offense and 3 and out or whatever. So 2 drives later, he hits that touchdown. So that's a stylistic argument that me and Ian have had 50 times. But I do just want to see more consistency in situation. Like I remember on the group chat, y'all got mad at me, but he ran a really cool design on 4th down where he had to do a lot of work and a lot of play design to get 1 yard. And I was like, I don't like that we're having to scheme that much to get a 4th and 1 against a normal team. Others appreciated the scheme work, but those kind of things, man, those little things on like 4th and 1, it's like I would enjoy to be able to just get it without Sark having to cook. Those are the kind of things I'm looking for to see growth in the offense. Of course, you can't have penalties and shooting yourself in the foot either.
This is probably a whole show, but there is a trend with some defensive coaches like Elko or Baker at LSU to be like, we're going to have a couple base defenses. We're going to be pretty simple on standard downs. And then we're going to put all our real scheming and all our real practice into money downs and winning on money downs. So I think the offensive equivalent, if Sark is like, we're going to focus on having a million ways to pick up 4th and 1, to me is totally fine. That's like that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
I have a bigger problem with inconsistent success rate on 1st and 10 outside zone or counter or whatever.
Yeah, and I agree. 1st down is the most important thing. Everything cascades off of 1st down, right? Normally when you have a 3rd down problem, it means you have a 1st down problem. But hey, man, you should have the pieces here. So we're looking to see, and like we said, it looks like Sark's locked in this year. So hopefully we can see those results. Everybody, I want you to head over to Inside Texas and join for just $1 single right now. It's a great time. A lot of content. Mid-February, you can get your fix for you real sickos out there, man. It's because it's slow in football world, but not at IT. Everyone, enjoy your Wednesday. We got some good content coming for you. We got an interview with Ari Wasserman coming up, and then also we're going to have a live this evening for y'all. So make sure you stay tuned in. And this was brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Later, everyone.